Alaikum assalam, and it's a very interesting day since the tour was cancelled. English team was supposed to come to Pakistan, and I must ask you before starting the program: do you feel secure sitting in the studio? Do you want me to bring in my security protocol, have gunmen standing behind you, or do you feel secure sitting in the studios?
I feel entirely secure, and it is a sad day. It's not an interesting day; it's a sad day. And anyone who loves the sport, I know you do. We have watched games together. I've said before, cricket hamare hoon mein hai. You know, this is one of the things that binds us together. We are all sad and frustrated.
And I'm sure you see that frustration every single day for these past 2 days on television. What everyone is coming out, because everyone was so looking forward to it. It was so difficult that
16 years we have been waiting.
16 years, and also with a lot of difficulty cricket came back to Pakistan, and these decisions have pushed it back. It is affecting cricket in Pakistan.
And you know that no one has worked harder than me with my dear friends at the PCB, Hasan Mani, now Ramiz Raja and Wazim Khan, to try and make this happen. But there is one thing I need to really be clear on. This was not about security. The British High Commission did not advise against this tour on security grounds, and my security advice has not changed.
This was my next question. Why was the tour cancelled? Because I saw this article in ESPN. The article says Foreign Office has not changed their travel advice about visiting to Pakistan after the New Zealand tour. It also says the advice from ECB's own security experts was unchanged. It also says it is also understood the British High Commission was satisfied with the plans. This is categorically not a case where security advice has compelled the ECB to cancel. Then why did it change?
So that is correct. This was a decision for the England and Wales Cricket Board, which of course is independent to the British government. This is not a decision that I take or someone else in the British government takes. This is for the ECB. And if you look at their statement yesterday, they were clear. They didn't say it was about security. They said it was about the players and about player welfare and the pressure the players felt under as they approached the World Cup. Now, that is regrettable. They said that they were disappointed and it was reluctant, but it is not for me to second-guess those players. What I can be clear about is what you've just said. There was no British High Commission a security block on this tour happening.
Also, that article says, Pakistan, it is understood, had also offered to move the matches to Lahore and play them behind closed doors, if security was a reason. England could surely have found 14 players who were prepared to tour. Plenty more have visited Pakistan to play in the PSL. There's an IPL going on. Was that the reason? Is India the reason?
No, I think you have to take ECB at face value, and I'm not privy to all of their conversations, but from what I understand, this was about the players, it was about their concerns, and I know that Ramiz and Wazim worked incredibly hard to see if there was a way they could get these matches to happen. What we do have, though, which I am pleased about, is a strong commitment to make the full tour happen in next autumn in 22. Remember that this was just 3 matches as a warm-up for the World Cup, and the real prize actually is the full 6 weeks, test matches, one-days, T20s, the full format of the game that we need to work to next year.
Are you assuring that England team will come to Pakistan for that?
Well, look, as of now, I see no reason for that not to happen, and you have my commitment. I will do everything I can to work with PCB and ECB to make it happen. No one, well, you may be happier than me, but you will struggle, because nothing would make me happier as British High Commissioner to welcome cricket back.
As an ardent football fan, I watch a lot of English football. These players play for 6 to 8 months every year in these environments. The environment that you're mentioning, the COVID environment, like it's been mentioned in
the bubble.
They are in the bubble. Then they go and play World Cups. Last year they played European Championships. These players, these sportsmen have to be ready for. I can't understand why a tour would be cancelled because there's too much pressure on the players. That pressure is part of who you are as a player. Why would it be cancelled?
It doesn't help if I come here and criticise certain players, and there's some who travel to the IPL. There are many players that you and I have met here who have loved the league here in Pakistan, have been a central part of the wonderful matches that we've seen. So all I can do is go back to the ECB. That is what they've said. They had a concern about player welfare. There was clearly a concern amongst those players, and they decided as part of their World Cup build-up that it was not viable. But it was not about security.
Chairman PCB, Ramiz Raja, made a statement. I'm sure he's also disappointed. Very disappointed. He said, we know who is a friend and who is not. Do you blame him? I mean, Pakistan is desperately trying to get cricket back on track in Pakistan. We bailed out England during the COVID times. There were times when nobody wanted to go to England because COVID was big. This comparison, this parallel is being drawn in Pakistan, where we bail out friends when they need us, when it's our time where you should have come in, even for 5 days, 4 days, you know, anything that English Cricket Board wanted.
I really recognise Ramiz's anger and frustration. I've talked to him a lot in the last few days. As I say, I'm not here to speak for the ECB. They're an independent body. That we've had 2 very successful tours to the UK. The Pakistan team have been, frankly, wonderful ambassadors for the sport and for their country. I've been privileged to watch every moment of that live on TV. So, I recognise that sense that Pakistan, in a difficult time of COVID, helped England cricket, and they wanted something in return. But look, this has happened. We must regroup. I don't recognise that there is wider politics or conspiracy in this. This is about a group of players. You can't force players on a plane in the end, so we have got to work together to make this tour next year happen.
High Commissioner, the problem is this frustration is not just in Pakistan. I've seen a lot of British journalists. Let me mention Peter Robone. He's been mentioned in the news. He called it, when he was asked a very direct question, why do you think ECB made this decision? He says, it smells to me as IPL. English Cricket Board is afraid of the players. And then he mentions Indians again, but didn't finish the sentence, and comes down to one sentence, which I think is critical in his analysis. He says, we're kicking a friend, and then he says, I will not use a word that I can't say on Sky, but let me say, we are kicking a friend in the teeth here because of India. That is a sense within your British community, the journalist community. He's not the only one. I've read other people drawing that parallel, that Indian League, India, is the one which is pushing you to do this.
Yeah. So look, Peter is a great advocate of cricket in Pakistan, has long been a friend of this country. He is a journalist, I'm a diplomat, so you wouldn't expect me to use exactly the same language he does. Genuinely, I do not recognise from what I have seen, and as I say, it's not my decision, I don't recognise that this is part of an Indian conspiracy to do down Pakistan. We talk a lot about perceptions of Pakistan and the work we have to do together to show that the Pakistan of 2021 is different from the Pakistan of 2001. And I think that is a conversation that many of us have in many contexts, most recently given events in Afghanistan. But I think it is easy to try and find someone to blame. Actually, I take the ECB statement at face value. They had a group of players who, for the reasons you have touched on, have said that they have not wanted to travel. Clearly that makes us all sad, and it was reluctantly taken. So I repeat, my job as a diplomat is to bring us together and say, we must be determined to get back to that point after 16 years where England is touring again.
High Commissioner, I understand what and you are a diplomat. You have to say a few things the way you want to say them. You will say them that way. Let's be honest. I mean, there's an interpretation of every action that happens around New Zealand cricket team and the English cricket team. And it is translated in Pakistan from a Pakistani lens.
Of course.
As I mentioned, the English football. And I've seen how football in the past 2 years, since COVID, in a bubble, these are also professional players. None of them I've heard saying, I'm tired. This is taking a toll on me physically and mentally, like the English Cricket Board has said. It just doesn't make sense. Let's be honest and admit this. It doesn't make sense.
So you're trying to get me to criticize the English players.
What I'm saying is, let's not make it as simple. We're oversimplifying it by saying, let's take ECB on face value. I can't imagine that we can take ECB on face value. Players are players, they have to play. You could easily find another set of players who could come and play in Pakistan.
Here's what I suspect. If there'd been time to have those discussions and decisions, I know that Wasim and Ramiz were trying very hard to find a solution. That clearly didn't happen despite all of our efforts. So, we can reach for the broader political conspiracy. I just, generally in life, I think that the mundane truth is more usual, which is here was a group of individuals for several reasons, and I'm sure you were right. There were probably some of those players because they've played here in the league. You and I could both name the ones who've been here entertaining us all. But for whatever reason, they couldn't make that work to get the players here, to break the duck, if I can use the metaphor, to get.
A lot of them played for Karachi Kings, and we went together to watch those fantastic players play for Karachi. And Jordan being one of them.
Jordan, Moeen Ali has played here and loved the game. So we do have some extraordinary players who I know we'll see here again. But I'm confident. Sitting here now, I see.
But in Pakistan, New Zealand, and England is being linked. Let's be honest.
Of course.
They say security. You don't say security, but you do exactly what New Zealand has done. So the prism is the same for us.
But I am telling you that is wrong. Okay?
For your country, it's
I
wrong.
can only comment on the British government's position. And there was no advice to the England Cricket Board, as you have read out, that said this tour has to be stopped on security grounds. I can speak authoritatively on that, and you can be sure of it, because if there had been, my travel advice would have changed, and it has not. The context is the same, and clearly the New Zealand decision must have made some of those players be concerned. So there is a chain. I'm not saying it's happened in isolation, but the thing that I can speak authoritatively on is that threat, that security, because if there had been a problem, actually my job wouldn't have been for Pakistan or for England. I have a responsibility to British nationals, and I am legally obliged to change my advice.
So there's no change in travel advisory,
Nope.
There's no change in the assessment, risk assessment, security assessment of Pakistan by the British High
As
Commission.
of today, no change.
So it's a safe country.
You read my travel advice. You have seen me traveling all around the place.
Will we see you in the mountains again?
Smiling in the mountains.
Will you go to Gwadar again?
Smiling in Gwadar, smiling in Karachi. You can see this is what I do. I want to welcome people to Pakistan. I want to be a part of that, where it is safe to do so. The travel advice sets that out. And we sometimes change our advice on an almost daily basis. So don't believe me. Believe what I say to my nationals publicly on the internet. It's there for everyone to look at.
And again, the reason for the viewers why there's a lot of disappointment in Pakistan is probably we expected more from ECB after what New Zealand cricket team did. Security didn't even mention to Pakistan what the security threat was, left Pakistan, and probably, a lot of, since we don't have time, I could have mentioned the Ashes tour of 2005. I could have mentioned Mumbai attacks. 10 days later, England team was back in India playing a test match after Mumbai attacks. The London Bridge incident, a terror incident. Next day, Pakistan was playing in Birmingham again. So, things have happened and life has moved on, and that's the responsibility, and that's probably from a friend, like Ramiz Raja said, you expect more. Again, on the future tour, last thing. At the moment, today, as we speak, there is no security advice given there, and the tour should be as planned.
That is exactly right. And not only am I saying that, but the ECB are saying that. So in their statement yesterday, they recommitted to wanting to make that happen. So let's work together. Let's get to that point where we are celebrating together those fantastic scenes of full stadiums watching England. I won't say who is going to win, but England play Pakistan.
Pakistan should win it. Let's be fair. It's our home condition. But I hope we don't have to use these terms of getting kicked in the teeth again come 2022. So hopefully that tour is on. Thank you, High Commissioner, very much for your time.
अहम तरीन खबरें अब एक क्लिक की दूरी पर। आपके पसंदीदा टॉक शोज हों या अहम मुल्की या गैर मुल्की शख्सियात की न्यूज कॉन्फ्रेंसेस, हर लम्हा बाखबर रहने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल। मौसम की सूरत हाल हो या खेल के मैदान से खबरें, अपने मोबाइल फोन से मुल्की और बैनुल अक़वामी अहम खबरों तक रसाई के लिए डाउनलोड कीजिए मोबाइल ऐप। बावसूख ज़राए से मुसद्दिका खबरों, तज्ज़ियों और तबसरों से मुस्तफ़ीद होने के लिए विजिट कीजिए पाकिस्तान की सबसे बड़ी न्यूज वेबसाइट www.arvynews.tv। इन सब के अलावा पाकिस्तान का सबसे बड़ा फेसबुक पेज हो, सबसे बड़ा न्यूज इंस्टाग्राम अकाउंट या फिर ट्विटर, ARY न्यूज पहुंचा रहा है खबरें सबसे पहले आप तक, ताकि आप रहें हर लम्हा बाखबर।